Alright, so this video is to tell you how I was able to fix my gun safe. I had problems with it opening. The combination wasn't right from the factory. It was just off, just a hair. And it'd take me, several tries to open the door. And so I decided I would take the back panel off the door and get to the lock and see if I couldn't straighten it out. So it wasn't that difficult. Just looked at it, saw how the mechanisms worked in there, and was able to decipher the proper combination, which it turned out that 2 out of my 3 numbers were wrong. First one was off by 1.5 marks on the dial. Second one was off by 1 mark. Anyhow, coming up here is a picture of my safe, and this is going to work on some safes. I would say most safes with a combination dial lock like this. Excuse me. I'm not a safe expert. I'm not a locksmith, so if you screw up your safe, it's not on me. But this worked for me, and now it opens every time, first try. So I hope this helps. Let's get to it. This is not my lock, but this is very similar to my lock. It's the same design. So you have the center bar with the little hook on it. That moves up and down and unlocks the bolt that opens your door. Behind it, well, actually the brass piece that it's connected to is, I don't know what the proper name of it is, but that spins with the dial. And then behind that are 3 discs, and they have a cutout in them, and all the cutouts need to line up in order for that bar to fall into place in order for it to open the door. So when you turn your combination, put your combination numbers in, those discs in the back stop at a certain position according to the numbers. And if the numbers are right, then they all line up and everything works and you can open your door. If they don't line up properly, like was in my case, then the door opens sometimes. Like I said, probably 1 out of 7 tries, maybe even less than that. But figured it was time to straighten it out so that I didn't have to wait 15 minutes to get into my gun safe. Sometimes you might need your gun sooner than that. This is the inside of the door. It's got the fireproof panel, which is basically a piece of sheetrock with felt over it, and there's a little plug in there that where there's a hole, which incidentally is to the back of the combination lock, and you can put what is called a change key in there to change the combination. I don't know where mine is, so I didn't do that operation. But anyway, you pop that plug out of there and then use a dowel rod or a screwdriver, and you lift that panel out of there. It's just sitting under the lip of the top and the bottom of the door, and gravity just holds it in place. Anyhow, I'll lift that out momentarily, and I'll show you what the back of the lock looks like. Top and bottom of the door. Nothing fancy, but you can see where the lip is over the panel. So here I've got the panel lifted out and still have the screwdriver stuck into it. And I'll just set that out of the way. Now here's the back of the lock. It's got a little stainless steel plate over it that's hooked to a pin that falls into the slot there if somebody was to try to punch out the center of that lock. So it's like a backup bolt if someone tried to break into your safe by punching the lock out. And so those, I did score that, the bottom of that where it matches that back plate, just so I could put it back in the same position. Turns out didn't really need to do that, but just 2 screws and that comes off the back. There is a spring under there, but it's captive, so it's not going to fly out on you. But you can see this looks very similar to that other one that I showed you. And right now everything's lined up because it just opened the door with the proper combination. So anyhow, here's the cutaway again. 12 o'clock, 11:30, so you can see the hole on the top, and then right below that in the disc you can see part of the cutout. Well, that bar continues on to the back of that cavity, and that bar sits in there. So the combination doesn't need to be perfect, but it needs to be close, within probably one or two. You know, there's 99 numbers on the plate, 360 degrees in a circle, so roughly 3.6 degrees per notch on the plate. Actually, I guess there's 100 on there, so 3.6 degrees for every notch you've turned. So you have a little bit of play in there, but not much. And mine was off just enough that sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. Okay, so I just turned the knob to the left, and I turned that centerpiece out of the way so you could see the area where everything's hooked in. I mean the cutouts in the discs and how they're all lined up. I think there's a picture in here where you can see all three discs. Hard to do this holding the camera in one hand and the light in the other hand, but and also see what I'm doing. But everything's lined up, and now what I'm doing is continuing to turn the disc, the dial to the left, which is how you reset your lock. Now the first disc turns a little bit, you know, halfway around or so, 3/4, and then it picks up the disc behind it, and then it starts moving with it. The back disc is still stationary, and then as that whole set rotates further, then it picks up the last one, and that, you know, scrambles everything. But it also resets it so that you can put your first digit in. That's the turning it to the left at least 3 times. Okay, so here I re-entered the combination, except I think I put the factory combo in. And as you can see, not all the discs are lined up properly. So this would not have been an open for me, because they're just off just enough. You can see that, I think it's the second one. It's just it's hanging down probably 1/16 of an inch lower than the front disc is anyway. Not sure where the back one's sitting right now, but whatever the case was, it wouldn't let that bar fall into place and pop up. I believe this one here was factory combination with one of the new digits added in, and it did work. Then I think I don't know if I pulled the bar out of the way or not, but you can see that one of the plates is not lined up still. I'm not sure where that is, but whatever the case is, the plates are not lined up and that bar is not falling in there. Maybe this is the one with one digit different. It wasn't perfectly lined up, but it worked. Aha, nope, I'm showing you the little spring that's there. Now the spring, if you're working on this and you're wondering why it won't open all the way, it's because that spring needs to be depressed, and it's depressed by the back panel being on. So the back panel does need to be in place for the thing to operate completely. There you can see the score where I scored it to mark it, to put that stainless steel plate back on, and it just lined it up, and basically I just threw it back up there. It didn't really need to be lined up because the screws held it in the right position. And basically the pin that it holds, that secondary safety pin, for lack of a better term, or that pin rides just above the shackle, and it kind of clicks into the hole. But whatever the case is, when the door is closed, that pin sits right above that hole and is waiting for that core to be punched out of it, and then it'll fall into place. And it's just a backup lock if somebody were to try to punch out the guts. Okay, so in summary, it's pretty simple to get into. If your safe is tough opening, chances are you got something like what I had going on, unless there's something broken in there. If you can get it open it up, take off the panels, and check and see if the wheels are lined up when you put the factory combination in. If they're not, well, then start investigating, either turning a click past or a click less than what the factory combo is on each number. Until you get to the position where all those wheels are lined up properly, let that bar fall into place. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. I'll try to help you with them. Like I said, I'm not an expert, but I was able to solve mine. Hope this helps you, and thanks for watching.